I feel like so many of us have self-love confused, because I think for a lot of us, self-love equals loving ourselves the way we are today. But I think the other side of self-love is loving ourselves so much that we're willing to work on ourselves. That's what self-improvement is. That's what personal development is. I'm not saying to shame yourself where you are, but I think self-love takes into account the growth that we want to have and the benefits that growth will have for us.
Kevin's going down the self-love road. I want to talk a little bit in addition to that about self-respect. Back in the day, 10 years ago, I wasn't taking care of myself. I was drinking too much and too often. I was 160 pounds, skinny fat. I was tall and I was lanky. And I missed the days back in college. I remember at one point I was working out for an hour a day and I was playing basketball for an hour and a half a day during my master's program, and I just felt so good about me, which allowed me to have the self-esteem to chase my dreams. And I think that if you don't have high self-esteem, it's going to be really hard for you to achieve your goals.
Next Level Nation, today for episode number 2020, it's Freestyle Friday. And Alan and I were talking in the preamble, and the thought I've had a lot recently is, yes, we're doing really well in business. Business is growing, awesome, new clients, great. I would not be nearly as fulfilled and nearly as on fire, for lack of better phrasing, if I wasn't crushing it in the gym. And then that connected to me, okay, well, why? Yes, it's a habit. Yes, I do it every day, almost every day, and it starts my day off right. Yes. But let's dig deeper. Why? Because yes, I feel like we're doing better in business and I feel more successful as a man, but I also feel like I am growing when it comes to fitness. And I feel like I'm taking care of myself. And I think there's two thoughts I have with this. And this is always a dangerous thing to talk about because I know it can come off in a negative way. I think for a lot of people, self-love is acceptance. Okay? Cool. I'm for that. I think on the other end, self-love is opportunity or transformation. Okay? I can mess with that too. I think we just have to understand where we are and then the right prescription for us. So if you're out there right now and you're struggling with fitness, whatever that means to you, and you're struggling with diet, whatever that means to you, one piece of acceptance might be, look, I'm not nearly in the place where I want to be, or maybe I'm not in the place where I was 5 years ago. I still have a capable body, and I'm grateful for that, and I love the fact that I have this body. Great place to start. Love it. And I think the next layer of self-love is I'm going to prove how much I love myself by pouring into myself. Just like on the other end, you can't just always beat yourself up and say, well, the only way for me to love myself is to change myself. I think that's a dangerous. So I think it's acceptance and ambition. Acceptance of here's where I am today. Let me accept that. I love my body. I love my body when I don't have a six-pack. I do love it more when I do, though. Not because necessarily of the result. Honestly, not necessarily because of the result. I think so much of it is because of the effort. There's something to that. There's something to... Okay. Alan always uses the house analogy. Let's say you have a house. You're planning on selling the house. You go do a bunch of renovations. When you're going to sell the house, the person says, it's not actually worth any more to me. I'm not willing to pay that. I'm willing to bet you still like that house because you worked on it and you invested in it and you improved it. You probably are more comfortable living in that house now than you were in the beginning, even though from the outside, there is no change. Nobody is going to give you extra money for it, hypothetically. Maybe not a great example, but that's what I'm going for today in Freestyle Friday.
So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was something that I think can be triggering. So I want to give everyone a trigger warning. There were times in my life where I would not be on point in fitness, and then I would rationalize it. And I consider rationalizing rational lies. The lies we tell ourselves to make ourselves feel better so that we don't have to change. So there was a time during I think Kevin and I are on our way back in an upgraded version because we started out pretty heavy in fitness. Way back in the day, we were a couple bodybuilder bros, and I think we lost some of our bodybuilder broness for a time. Sure. And I feel it coming back, and I feel good about it. And it's coming back in a more mature way, for sure. But in our late 20s, I mean, we were, in hindsight, extremely fit, dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were in very good shape. Yes.
You don't always realize how fit you are until you lose it. And then you look back and go, we were fucking animals, dude. But back then, I didn't feel that way, you know?
Well, it was also like the number one priority.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
So it was different.
So there was a time when behind the scenes, there's been 2 times I want to share. One time, Kevin and I were in Toronto, and I've shared this on the show, but I just want to be honest. And he said, dude, this ain't it. You're not where you think you are. And he was trying to tell me you're a little delusional about your fitness, and I need you to trust me. I'm struggling too. And he said, listen, I'm fat too. Like, being playful. And again, fat's the wrong word, but I'm out of shape too. So I'm not judging you. I'm just saying, I'm telling you, you're off. That ain't it.
Yeah.
And that I'll never forget that moment. I'll never forget it. That was a tough moment for me. Remember when we went to that gym?
We went to a gym in Toronto, and it was a massive gym, and I felt absolutely terrible about myself.
Same, dude. Horrible.
I'm used to walking into a gym and feeling good. Like, whatever. I don't care. I'm going to be in really good shape compared to most people here. It was not the case that day.
Yeah, that was
not
brutal.
the case.
You and I had fallen so far. So far.
Well,
we had
yeah.
succeeded in business, but we took a hit in fitness. And again, in self-esteem, I want to get back to that. Okay, so that's one story. Other story is I came to Kevin one time behind the scenes, and I essentially said a kinder version of what I'm going to give, which is, dude, this is next level you. This isn't dad bod you. And what I was trying to share with him is, brother, come on, man. You're better than this, right? And I think at that point, Taryn was cooking a lot or whatever, and you just weren't doing it.
No, it was me. This was a me
Just
issue.
you.
This was nobody else.
There was a time, and again, we had a little moment where we blamed COVID a bit. At least I did. I definitely did. But you had a 3 or 4 month period where you didn't lift at all. And I want to talk about rationalization, because while I've done it and you've done it,
Of course,
it doesn't help us. We were making excuses. And the truth is, I think we were trying to convince ourselves on some level that we were okay with lower standards, when in reality, I don't think we really were. I definitely wasn't. I'll speak for myself. I was never okay with it.
I think I was more okay than you were.
Yeah, probably. Remember
I think it's different. It's during COVID, Alan was working out in his closet, and I was like, dude, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going for runs. Like, I'm just going to wait. Yeah. Whatever happens is going to happen. I mean, it is what it is.
The heaviest weights I had were 40s.
That's rough.
Yeah, because
Closet
I went
workouts.
I remember I was decline pressing 245 for like reps, and then you go to 40 dumbbells. What do you can't, this is the problem. And again, I'll be brief about this, but what built the physique I had was a very equipped gym. And then in COVID, you can't build the same. That's like trying to build a house without, like trying to build a skyscraper without a crane. There's certain tools that you need in order to, and I'm not big on excuses, but if I ever had a chance to make an excuse, seriously, COVID with fitness, that fucked me up.
Understand.
Dude, that fucked me up. And then when I finally got back in the gym, I'll never forget, I was driving to Impact Fitness in Auburn. Freaking great gym. And I was crying when they opened. I was in tears of joy, crying. That's how much I missed it. And I remember, shout out to Bianca, I was coaching her at the time, I still am, but her and I, every call, would be like, what the fuck do we do? Like, what are we going to do? Are we going to go out in the woods and lift logs? Like, what are we going to do, right? And you know what I found really fascinating? This is a little side tangent, but Bianca was the most upset about COVID with gyms closing of anyone that I coached at the time. And I coached, I think, probably 20, 23 people at that point, something like that, in the 20 plus. And I remember thinking to myself, isn't it ironic how the person in the best shape that I coach is actually the most upset about their physique and about the gym? It's a standards thing. If you have level 10 standards and the gym close, you're going to be more upset than someone who has level 2 standards and the gym close. Some people with the gyms closed, it didn't affect them at all. Yep. Now, that's not what I'm making this about. What I am making this about is, let's have an honest conversation about what we value. I value fitness at level 10. 10. It's so important to me. It's not even funny. Love it. I don't love every second of it. I don't love mobility. I don't always want to go, but I cannot stand it. I cannot fucking stand it when I'm not in great shape, when I'm not putting in the work, when I'm not aligned. And I think it's important to be honest with yourself about that, because there was a time in my life where I used to try to pretend that it didn't bother me when deep down it really did.
Well, I think you can delude yourself into thinking the things that you're doing are best for you, when in reality, you're just convincing yourself that they're the best for you.
How do you know the difference?
You know the difference. I think we all know somewhere, if we sat with it for long enough and we were really honest with ourselves, we know.
During that time when there was a live event where you and I showed up out of shape, in my opinion. And I don't see Kevin in person that often. And, again, I'm being as truthful as I can without trying to be shameful or anything like that. I'm not trying to shame Kev. But Kev and I, when we first started, Kev was like the guy, the fitness guy. And behind the scenes, I teared up saying, like, you used to inspire me so much and you had fallen, all that stuff. And back then, were you convincing yourself in hindsight at all?
I don't think so. No. This is what happened in Toronto. Alan was talking, he's like, dude, I've been crushing it and this and this. It's like, I was like, brother, I love you. I love you so much. I love you so much. You're deluding yourself. Like, you are not in good shape compared to what you could be. Brother, you're fucking up. And that's why I said, I'm not telling you that from somebody who's in better shape than you. I'm not saying you got to be more like me. I'm messing up too. I'm just very aware of it.
And you were totally fine with that.
It's not, again, I have a very weird relationship with the fact that either I do what it takes to get the result or I don't get the result and I can't complain about it. I
think that's great. That's what I'm trying to get to. Like,
that's the agreement I have with myself. And right now,
when did you make that agreement? Because that's not common. I think that would help everyone, genuinely.
I've been doing fitness for a long time. And I think that I think it started with that. Look, okay, I travel a lot for work. Figure it out. Oh, I work weird hours. Figure it out. What's the other option, though? You
literally said to me in COVID, you could have lifted rocks. You could have gone outside and lifted
I did.
Rocks. Kev is no excuses in fitness. I love it.
I also was like, I'm not gonna, though. You could have, brother. You could have. If you were really that upset, you could have found a way, 1,000%. I wasn't that upset. It was nice to be able to eat whatever I wanted. I got chunky. By my standards. Again, I'm not shaming anybody. That is not what this episode is about. But yeah, I was heavier than I had ever been, for sure. I don't know. Maybe one of the pieces is I know I'll get it back if I want to. As arrogant as that might sound, I know the formula. Eat less, exercise more, eat a lot of protein, lift heavy, get a good amount of sleep, stay hydrated. Those fundamentals work really, really well, especially for me. My body responds really well. So maybe that's a piece of it, but
I think the honesty with self. I think self-love sometimes can be self-honesty. What do you really care about? I was on with someone who I hadn't spoken to in years. Shout out to you if you're listening. And we caught up, and I coached her years ago, probably around the beginning of COVID, actually. 2020, 2021, 2022. It was a weird time. But she was very honest with herself on this call where she's like, yeah, I think I tried to tell myself a story that I didn't care about what I looked like. That was bullshit. I care so much. I said, good for you. Good for you for just owning it. Now, if you can't change it, I'm all for acceptance.
Yeah, that's important.
And self-acceptance as a person, I think, is good. So it's self-awareness, self-acceptance, then self-improvement. I think we lie to ourselves constantly. And I think what we really value, we will be better off if we just say, hey, I've let it go. And because it's going to happen eventually, dude. Eventually, you're going to have to pay the piper.
For sure.
Like, eventually, I mean, there's only so many times I can look back at old photos and be upset before I do something about it.
Next Level Nation. We are very, very excited to announce that we are doing our first purely virtual Next Level Live on April 5th, 2025. From 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Alan and myself will be live streaming from Worcester, Massachusetts.
Next Level Live 2025. Be there. It's only $47 for a full day of personal development, self-improvement, holistic health, wealth, life, and love.
We have a global audience. Obviously, if you live somewhere else in the world, it's hard to come across the country or across the world for a one-day event, so we wanted to make sure it was accessible to everyone.
You're not going to get to the next level of your life by default. You're going to get there by design. Join us. Design that next level.
Well, if we were to say, okay, what is love? Not self-love, what is love?
What is love?
Baby, don't hurt me. If you were in a relationship with someone and they saw you doing something that was just self-destructive, would it be love for you to go and say, hey, I've noticed this. I'm nervous to bring this up, and I'm a little bit scared you're going to villainize me. But I love you so much, and I see this thing that you're doing, and I just want to make sure that you're aware of what you're doing and the downsides it might have.
Well, when you told me what you told me about being out of shape, you were trying to help me, right?
I was afraid if you thought you were in better shape than you did, you would operate differently.
For sure. I was delusional.
I remember we stayed at a high-rise in Toronto, and it had a parking garage that was like 10 layers deep. I was freaking out. I thought I was going to have a panic attack as we were driving down. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
It was brutal. There was a subway.
Not a fan of that elevator either.
No, that elevator was sketchy.
It was sketchy.
There was a subway right across. So the first night we went there, we got Five Guys. I was over the moon. Huge fan. Love that for me. Awesome. Then I think the second
next
day
night we did Subway, yeah.
We did Subway. I wanted Five Guys because I hadn't come to terms with the fact that I was going to change yet. Because I was okay with it. It's like, I'm not super worried about it right now. But I think that, so what is love?
What has changed in your standards from then to now? Because now you have higher standards.
Man.
When did you decide, like, fuck this? I'm going to try to actually, reach my potential here. Because that's really what upsets me the most. And that's why I'm actually asking you. Because for me, it's how aligned am I with my potential? Do I feel like I'm doing all I can with all I have? And if the answer is no, I have a really hard time with that. But for you, and I think that's self-love, but for you, what's
that's
changed?
Not the way I'm wired. For me, I don't think I understood how much of my identity was in fitness until I started to not feel it anymore. You can only feel like a bodybuilder for so long when you're not bodybuilding. You can only feel like an athlete for so long, right? When you're not doing any athletic endeavors. And I think eventually it got to the place where I was like, okay, I am talking more than I'm walking when it comes to fitness. And I can't really talk about fitness anymore because I'm not doing it.
Whoa.
As much as I used to. That there's something, I cannot talk about stuff I'm not doing.
I want to unpack that for the listeners real quick. Agreed, same. And that integrity that you have, and I'm not trying to toot Kevin's horn here.
Toot it, baby. Toot that
horn.
Horn.
Yeah. It's really important, though, because you can't talk about it unless you're walking it, it helps you walk a lot of things. This podcast, we desire to help people in fitness, health, wealth, and love. It is so much accountability, the fact that we can't speak about something unless we're doing it. That's definitely something you and I have in common that helps us and hinders our ability to succeed in some ways. Like, for example, there are a lot of people out there that are talking about fitness that aren't actually practicing what they preach. You and I have interviewed people like that, and then we had to not air it. And I think that's a big W in real life. I don't know if it's a big W in the social world. Probably not, right? But it's a huge win in real life when we can't talk about things we're not doing because it holds us to that whole other level of accountability. I'm the same way. And I think that's why you said you're delusional, because I was acting one way and talking as if, but I hadn't realized how much I had fallen. It wasn't until you and I went back to our old stomping grounds. We used to do Crunch Fitness in Worcester together. Dude, when I went back there and I looked in those same mirrors, I was like, oh shit. What the fuck happened to us? And again, I'm coming off of being a fitness model. I did 43 photo shoots. Like when you're preparing for a photo shoot every other fucking month, for years, it's just a different level of feedback and accountability. And you have a long way to fall. And I think that's one thing that people maybe don't talk about much. But when you climb really high in a specific area, you have a long way to fall. And I'm sure how does certain people feel after being in a peak condition? I mean, I have bodybuilding trophies behind me. I have 3 of them. And it bothers me part of me wants to get better my best. I don't want my best to be in the past. That bothers me constantly. Yeah. And I don't know if people talk about that enough.
Well, I think it's vulnerable to talk about, because the suggestion there is I'm not as good as I once was. And that is factual. I have been in better shape for the majority of my life than I am right now. Maybe not the majority, but often. I'm getting back. My abs are coming. Like, things are good. I'm turning a corner here. I'm going to look really good, hopefully, over the next month or so. But yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to better my best. I don't think I can.
I haven't let that go yet.
Maybe you can. I don't think I can. I think I've squandered a lot of the genetic gifts I've been given, in a way, because I didn't understand back in the I wasn't focused on sleep.
Yeah.
Right? I told Alan before this, I've been sleeping a ton. I'm really focused on eating enough protein. My workouts have been great. I'm getting leaner, but the scale's not dropping. And that is a suggestion that I'm maintaining muscle, and or the fat on my body is recomping. I'm doing some recomposition to muscle, which is cool. If that happens, that happens. But I want to make sure this lands, because again, I don't want us to be. I'm cool with being a bodybuilding bro, but a bodybuilding bro that's conscious, a hyper-conscious bodybuilding bro. I think the level of truth you give yourself has to be connected to the level of truth you're willing to receive. I am comfortable looking at myself and saying, shit, you let it go. But I've been doing this for 20 years. In the very beginning as a speaker, if somebody said, Kev, that was fucking terrible, like you should be embarrassed of that speaking performance, that would have crushed me. Now, my standards are very high and I can give myself that level of feedback. You can only give yourself the level of truth that you're ready for. But again, if you're running the cycle of I'm just going to accept, I think to Alan's point, that's going to, I don't want to put words in your mouth, that's going to bite you in the butt eventually, because eventually you're going to get to the point where you haven't worked on the problem.
Well, there's a difference between actual acceptance and then rational lies, right? Trying to convince yourself that you're okay with it, because that's the truth. Like if I were to convince myself that I'm okay with my best being in the past, I'd be lying. I'd be lying to you and to myself. It's not okay.
That's self-awareness. That's self-awareness.
I would rather try for the rest of my life and fail for the rest of my life than not try. I have to. The truth is, I'm not doing everything I can. My mobility, and it's not like I'm hanging out. I'm coming off of 1,121 days of exercise in a row. So I want people. It's not about. It's you versus you, because a lot of people would say, "What do you mean? You're in great shape." It doesn't matter. I appreciate it. Thank you. And yes, I'm not letting it go completely, but it's based on what my standards are and my best is. And this is a you versus you conversation. So I pulled this up earlier. I want to bring this up before we go. Self-awareness, for anyone out there watching or listening, to bring this completely to you instead of Kevin and I talking. Think about which one of these resonates the most with you. I'm just going to rattle them off. This is what I call the pyramid of the self. And it's literally a heart with a hug, a self-hug, heart with a hug. Self-awareness, self-concept, self-belief, self-worth, self-discipline, self-trust, and self-love. I believe it's a pyramid that is built, and self-love is at the top. I don't think that you can love yourself authentically without also being honest with yourself about what you value and where you're letting yourself down. If I let Kevin down constantly, he's not going to love me.
That's fair.
And if you break the promises you make to yourself constantly, you're not going to value yourself. You're not going to love yourself. You're not going to love a house that you don't take care of. You're not going to love a pet that you don't take care of. So it's this relationship of you take care of your pets or your children or your home or yourself, and then you love it more. which then makes you want to take even better care of it, and then you love it more. If you love I love Emilia. I need to take unbelievable care of my relationship with Emilia. I have to take unbelievable care of Emilia. She had a headache yesterday. I was there for her. I think love is through actions, dude. I do. And words are great too, but actions matter the most when no one's watching. And no one else is going to come to you and say, hey, you're letting it ride. You said that to me, but that's not normal. You don't go around saying that to people.
Because I know that's what you want.
I know, and I appreciate it, but I have to police myself in this. You have to police yourself in this, and I'm glad we're talking about fitness again. I'm glad we're back on the train, and I want to bring it up to a whole new level. I do. I want to bring it past where we used to have it. That's why I put the bodybuilding trophies behind here. That's a reminder for me every fucking day.
Good luck.
That I'm into fitness. Now, I always said I'd peak at 42, so I've still got 6 more years. Let's rock and roll. Brad Pitt in Troy is 42. That was when I saw that in 2004.
He wasn't in that good a shape, though, all things considered.
I know.
He probably weighed like 160 pounds soaking wet.
I'm still going.
And again,
for 42. I'm not saying at 42. That's my goal.
I'm not saying Brad Pitt didn't look good. It's different. It's different than you think. Last thing before we go. You can change your perception or you can change your behavior.
Mm-hmm.
That I think if you're on either of those polarities, if you work 23 hours a day and you're letting it slide right now on fitness and all you can think of is I'm the worst, I need to change my behavior. That's probably not sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're on the other end and you're always changing your perception, there is a detriment to both of those. There is. We just have to figure out what is a healthy. If I've worked out 6 days in a row and I've had just super hard workouts and I don't sleep well, I'm going to change my perception and say I'm going to sleep in a little bit today. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Not the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
If I haven't gone to the gym for 2 weeks straight because I'm lazy, I'm going to change my behavior. Because changing my perception is not going to serve me.
Nice.
That's what we're going to end with. Okay, Next Level Live, April 5th, 2025. Tickets are $47. You get access to the replay. Join us. You can pop in. You can pop out. You don't have to attend the whole thing. And then the next round of group coaching, which Alan named the Next Level Podcast Accelerator, is April 15th. So level up yourself, level up your podcast, level up your business. All the details will be in the show notes. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we don't have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Keep crushing your fitness goals. Next Level Nation.